and welcome to the August 2024 edition of Macro and Market Outlook, where this month we discuss the US Fed policy, the dynamics of political developments in the US, India final budget, SEBI consultation paper on derivatives, RBI's draft guidelines on the liquidity coverage, and finally the outlook of Indian equity and fixed income markets. The US Fed held the Fed funds rate steady at 5.25 to 5.5%, but Chair Jay Powell suggested that the first rate cut could occur in September if inflation moderates as expected. Bond yields dropped to a 6-month low of just under 4%, and equities surged by 2 to 3%, benefiting long-duration growth stocks. The dollar weakened a tad, particularly against the yen, amid expectations of cheaper US money and the Bank of Japan's tightening policy. The Federal Reserve's September decision will hinge on inflation data, with Powell outlining two scenarios: a likely rate cut if inflation slows but employment stays steady, or delayed cuts if inflation remains stubborn. Markets are currently pricing in 3 rate cuts this year. Ahead of the November US election, the Fed stressed that decision will be based on economic conditions rather than politics. A rate cut could boost inflows to the emerging markets and India, though the latter's export sector recovery will also depend on US economic growth. US politics has been turbulent recently, with an assassination attempt on Trump, Biden's poor congressional debate performance, speculation about his health, and his subsequent withdrawal from the presidential race in favor of Kamala Harris. The scale of this shift remains unclear until new polls are released. A more competitive election is likely to lead to extravagant promises of faster economic growth, increased government spending, lower interest rates, and no tax hikes. Analysts have pushed wildly divergent ideas on how a Trump presidency would affect financial markets. Would Trump winning mean a stronger dollar because tariffs would narrow the US trade deficit, or a weaker dollar because the US would deliberately devalue? Would Trump push oil prices higher by abandoning alternative energy, or lower by ending the war in Ukraine and encouraging more drilling in the US? Would he favor technology and growth stocks by dropping antitrust suits and regulations, or help cyclicals and financials and value stocks by expanding fiscal policy and accelerating economic growth? The political landscape will be highly unpredictable for the next 3 months, influencing global economic conditions due to US geopolitical and financial dominance. The fiscal deficit target for India in FY25 is set at 4.9% of GDP in the final budget, which was held in July, down 20 basis points from the interim budget. Fiscal arithmetic looks credible. In fact, taxes could surprise on the upside, giving scope of even better consolidation. Capex target stays unchanged at Rs 11.1 trillion. Revenue expenditure, though, moves up a bit by Rs 500 billion to 6% growth. Government kept G6 supply unchanged but reduced stable supply by 1 trillion vis-a-vis the interim budget. In the context of credit growth continuing to outpace deposit growth in the banks, lower take from the government will help the domestic liquidity situation. So at a high level, there is not much to quibble about the budget. But on taxation front, the changes have become the discussion points of every household. On the income tax, there was a marginal revision to tax slabs under the new regime, with a promise to review it further over the next 6 months. Yet, this year, income tax collection has shot past the corporate tax collection in India. The challenge is that in India, still, only 9 crore out of total base of 140 crore or 35 to 36 crore of non-agri workers pay taxes. Compliance needs to go up. Over time, the capital gain taxation structure in India has become increasingly complex. Different holding periods, 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years, were required to classify asset as long-term for various financial and non-financial products, each with different tax rates for short-term and long-term gains across the asset classes. There has been a significant rationalization of this structure. The proposed changes include standardizing the holding period for listed securities in equities to 12 months and for all other assets to 24 months. Short-term and long-term capital gain tax rates for equity and equity-oriented mutual funds have been increased to 20% from 15% and 12.5% from 10% respectively, with the exemption limit raised from Rs 1 lakh to Rs 1.25 lakhs. Other short-term capital gains will continue to be taxed at the applicable rate. Long-term capital gain tax is now set at 12.5% for all asset categories. Additionally, indexation benefit for calculating long-term capital gains currently available for property, gold, and other unlisted assets will be removed. Unlisted debentures and bonds categorized as debt instruments will be taxed at the applicable tax rate for both short-term and long-term gains. In summary, equity investors were negatively surprised by the increases in taxes, while the removal of indexation has led to immense negative reaction from real estate holders. Conversely, gold and silver ETFs stand to benefit from these changes. There has been a marginal increase to STT in the derivative segment, though most measures to curb derivative flows will be taken by SEBI. While the rationalization of taxes was perhaps necessary, the grandfathering of older holdings of mutual fund debt schemes should have been considered, and a deeper thought should have been given to tax implications on real estate. SEBI aims to reduce retail participation and speculation in the derivative market after highlighting that 92 lakh individuals and firms lost 51,600 crore rupees in FY24, with 85% of retail traders incurring net losses. SEBI has proposed 7 measures, including reducing weekly option contracts to 1 benchmark index per exchange, down from 18 to 6 per month, increasing minimum contract values, rationalizing option strikes, requiring upfront premium payments, raising extreme loss margins, and monitoring positions intraday instead of at the day's end. These steps aim to curb excessive retail involvement and protect household savings from speculative losses. Indian equity market performance continues to be stellar. Nifty has crossed the emblematic 25,000 mark and risen 15% year to date. Year to date, all sectors are in green, with PSU, power and auto being the best performers of the year, while banks, FMCG and IT lagging a bit. However, at the margin, we can see some sector rotation in the performance. For example, IT, FMCG and oil and gas has seen the best rally in July. And we do think that this change in performance areas in terms of market cap and sectors would continue for some more time. At the margin, no increase in capex budget was a dampener to infra and capex sentiment, but thrust to these sectors remains strong. One has to watch their valuation though. The budget also lacked any material dole-out for consumption, but that seems to be happening at the state level now, and rural consumer sentiment has been improving at the margin. From the valuation perspective, we stay cautious on equities and focus on pockets where we still find value. Global bond yields fell over the month, with the 10-year US Treasury yield dropping to around 4% from 4.40 a month ago. The Bank of England's rate cut and expectations of US Federal Reserve cuts in September, including 3 anticipated in 2024 by the markets, have bolstered the optimism. Indian government bonds yields also decreased, influenced by reduction in treasury bill supply by Rs 1 trillion. Additionally, banking system liquidity improved marginally in June and July. With strong dollar capital inflows, liquidity in the LAF is expected to remain in surplus. Conversely, in the last week of July, the Reserve Bank of India issued a draft guideline requiring banks to provide higher liquidity coverage for retail deposits obtained through digital banking system starting April 2025. While still in draft form, if implemented, this would likely increase demand for SLR securities by banks. Banks typically focus on the 1 to 5 year segment. So, the recent downward shift in yields for maturities of 1 year and longer can largely be attributed to this news. As we have consistently noted, the demand-supply dynamics for dated securities in FY25 appear robust. However, despite the LAF being in surplus, qualitative assessments indicate that the banking system liquidity remains tight. The credit-to-deposit ratio is around 77% and over 90% for private banks, leading to higher yields on commercial paper and corporate bonds and certificate of deposits. Banks might need to reduce credit growth or raise deposit costs to manage their liability base. Spreads on commercial paper and corporate bonds for the non-banking financial companies have already widened compared to 6 months and a year ago. Currently, SDL spreads are compressed due to relatively contained Q1 SDL supply. However, given the aggressive welfare measures being announced by states, it is likely that the fiscal deficit for states will again align with budget expectations, and the projected 11 trillion SDL supply for FY25 is expected to proceed. Overall, with combined supply of GSECs and SDL remaining flat compared to last year, SDL spreads may remain contained. Additionally, with surplus rainfall and easing food inflation concerns, CPI inflation may surprise positively. Overall, the outlook for government bonds appear favorable. Signing off for this month. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.